Series of You Asked, We Answered, where we're taking questions from the congregation, from Facebook, and I've been answering them. This will be our last week. Next week we will start Jesus 2014. What would Jesus look like if he lived in our world today? And we're going to be going through different aspects of our society and going, how would Jesus react to that in our society? But wrapping things up today, let me read you the questions I have for today. Here are the two questions I received. The first one was this. It says, I have this incredible mother, but what in the world is the point of my father? Not a very nice child there, just want to say. All right, here's the other question I got. I love my mom, but all my dad does is annoy me. Why, God, why? Signed, Liberty Zimmerman. There you go. My daughter can't write or anything. I had to manufacture these ones for Mother's Day and for Father's Day. But anyways, basically, here's the question we're going to ask this morning and we're going to answer is, what is the value of a father, all right? And before we answer that, because I'm going to get to that in a minute, let me just give you some famous phrases of fatherhood and see how many of you have heard these before or have actually said these as father. Just some famous phrases that most fathers say. The first one is this: don't ask me, ask your mother. Right? That's the perfect one for a father. When you don't want to answer something and have to deal with it, you're just like, go ask mom. Don't ask me, go ask mom. She's in charge, go ask her, okay? How about this one? Don't worry, it's only blood. All right? Don't worry, it's only blood. Guys, how many of you said that to your kids? I knew James would. Me and James are right there, and Jeff. All right, it's like, kid, it's just bleeding. I can't see the bone. It's just blood. You'll heal up. Don't worry about it. All right? The next one, a little dirt never hurt anyone. Just wipe it off. 5-second rule. Got that one? Okay. And then the wife goes, you can't let them eat that. We eat stuff off the ground all the time, honey. And then she's like, no, okay. You know how that works. Okay. Next one. This hurts me a lot more than it hurts you. Yeah, good, been there. All right. The next one is this. Do I look like I'm made of money? Yes. As I get older, you know that one. All right. Here's the other one. This is kind of how it usually looks. We're not lost. All right? That's usually when you're in the car. Just be quiet. As long as you live under my roof, you'll live by my rules. Okay. I never thought I'd say that one, but I've said that one multiple times now, which is, mine more goes like this. I own your whole life. Everything you have, I bought for you. I own you, so you will do what I tell you to do. Okay, that's kind of how it goes in my house. The next one is this. I'll tell you why, because I said so. That's why. See? I didn't even have to rehearse this stuff because I can say these just off the snap of a finger like that anytime because I'm so used to saying it with my children already. This is a classic one. I'm not sleeping. I was watching that show. That's where they come steal the remote and like turn the TV on you because they think you like fell asleep and you were just taking a commercial doze, but you were going to come back to what you were watching. You know how it works. All right, last two. Don't make me stop this car. I swear I'll pull off the side of the road. All right? And the last one, I never have used this one, but when I was doing research this week, I came across this. I was like, this has to become my new line. This is classic. I never use this, but I am now for the rest of my life. If you're going to be dumb, then you better be tough. Is that not good? If you're going to be dumb, then you better be tough. I can't wait to use that one on Gideon. Just going, Gideon, you're going to be stupid. You better be tough then. I don't want to hear the whining and when you get hurt doing something dumb. Okay, here's the sad thing about fatherhood, though, today, is this. Our culture has spent the better part of 35 years trying to devalue the role of the father in the home and in our society. It has been very successful. Let me just show you some numbers which are shocking in our society today. This is the percentage of children living without a father at home. In 1960, that number was at 11%. So in 1960, 11% of children lived without their father at home. 30 years later, by 1990, that had risen to 29%. So almost a third of children were living at home without their fathers. 2010, that number right now is 43%. 43% of our children in the United States are living without their fathers in their homes. And that's from 40 years ago. And I can only imagine that's probably risen a little bit more. That is stunning. Stunning. Here's what I do know, though, as a follower of God. Fathers, you are invaluable in the development of your children's lives, just as their mothers are. The ideal family environment for children to be raised in is an environment with a mother and a father in the same home. That is ideal. That is biblical teaching. And let me just show you some stats showing that out. As much as society will go, it doesn't really matter. It absolutely does. There was a reason God designed the things the way he designed them to be. Let me just show you some amazing stats. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. 90%. That is 32 times the normal average. 32 times. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. That is 14 times the average. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from fatherless homes. That is 10 times the average. 85% of all youths in prison come from fatherless homes, 20 times the national average. And this one is stunning. Daughters living in a fatherless household are 711% more likely to have children as teenagers. Is that not amazing? Those are stats from 2010. So this morning, just like I did on Mother's Day, what I want to talk about is this. What is the role of a godly father? What is their role in the life? And the things I'm going to talk about this morning, I would say, are kind of the bar to shoot for. And let me put a little side caveat here for a quick second. I know there's a lot of you in here that are single moms. I know there's some of you in here that are single dads. I know there's a lot of you in here that come from broken homes and you're living in different environments. What I am preaching about today is this. I can't fix what's already broken. What I can tell you, for those of you that are in those situations, God can still do amazing things even in broken situations. It's the business God's in. But this morning, I am specifically going to be talking about what the Bible states is God's desire, which is a mom and a dad in the home, and what that father's role is, okay? So as I talk about these things, if you're not in that situation, please don't sit there and feel like you got beat up at church today. That's not the point. What I'm showing you is this is what God's ideal is. And this is who we're to be. And if you're not there right now and you're in a broken situation, you can still take these three things and go, I can try to do better at those things and achieve those things in my kids' lives, the better their lives down the road. Okay? Does that make sense? Here we go. This is what I would say is God's desire for a godly father in their household, the different roles you play. The first one is this. Godly fathers encourage and direct their children to godliness. One of the key roles you have as a father in your home with your children is encouraging and directing your children to live the way that God would desire for them to live. To help them avoid some of the pitfalls that this world puts in front of most people. You as a father, your role is to help them orchestrate past that and encourage them and direct them to live the way God would have them to live. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, Paul's writing to a church, and Paul views his role to this church like in a fatherly figure, because he started the church, he mentored the people that were there, and he kind of views himself as a father to them, that he gave birth to them in a spiritual sense. And he writes to them in chapter 2, and he writes this, he says, and you know that we treated each of you as a father treats his own children. So Paul's lining out, this is what the expectation is of how a father would treat their own children. And he says, this is what I've done with you. He says, we pleaded with you, we encouraged you, we urge you to live your lives in a way that God would consider worthy. Okay? Dads, if you want to know what you should be doing with your kids, look at what Paul says. You need to plead with them to live the right way. You need to encourage them. You need to be an encourager in their life, not just someone who breaks them down. You need to encourage them, and you need to urge them to live a life that is worthy, that God would consider worthy. That is your role as a father, as a Christian father. Those are the things you ought to be doing. Now, the way you do that, though, means this. There's a couple of things you have to do. One is this. Your faith has to be visual, and it has to be verbal in your household. A lot of fathers, you keep your faith to yourself, because that's typically just how we are as men. Most of us, in general, are not the most emotionally outpouring people in the world. Okay, we're tough nuts to crack. It takes a while to get there. But you have to understand with your children, Your faith has to be lived out visually in front of them, and it has to be lived out verbally in front of them. You have to talk about your faith. You have to live the life you say you live and that you want them to live. They need to see it and they need to hear it. You guys all know this. I'm a huge proponent of sitting with your children and talking through why you do the things you do, not just doing it. Okay, when I help someone in situation B, I just don't help someone in situation B if my kids are around and watching. I help someone in situation B, and then I sit my kids down and explain why I help them and why Christ is the reason I help them and how he's the influence in my life that leads me to act that way. Okay? So your faith has to be visual and verbal. It also means this, dads. You have to have a relationship with your kids where you can talk on a serious level with them at times. Okay? It's very easy for us when we're working, when we're stressed, when we're doing all different things in our lives to become fathers who all we do is direct our kids around. Do this, do that, do this, do that. All right? That's okay at times. But dads, you also have to have a side to yourself and you have to develop a relationship with your kids where you can have serious discussions with them. That you can sit down with them and you can talk about hard issues. You can talk about what's going on in their life. And you can have a serious moment with them, not just be a dictator and a director of life, but someone that helps them process things. Does that make sense? You have to have that role in your kid's life. You have to encourage them. You have to direct them. To do that, you have to have a relationship with them that you can talk about some of those issues with. The second quality of godly fathers is this. You become a source of stability and security for your children. You become a source of security or stability and security for your children. Here's what it says in James 1:17. James talks about his heavenly Father. And he says this, he says, whatever is good and perfect comes down to us from God above, who created all of heaven's lights. Unlike them, he never changes or casts shifting shadows. Here's one of the beautiful things about God. God never changes. We always do. Every day you wake up, you can expect God to be the same God he was yesterday. He doesn't shift around. He doesn't become someone different. He doesn't morph into different teachings. He is what he is, and he always is that way. That's one of the beautiful things about God. As a father, you have to be that stabilizing force in your own kids' lives. You need to be someone that is stable, and your kids know what to expect from you in all situations. That they know the dad you were yesterday will be the dad you are today, and the dad you are this week is the dad you were last week, and the dad you are next year is the same dad you were the year before. Your kids need stability from you as a father. This happens in two areas. One is emotional. Dads, you have to control your emotions. Dads, if you struggle with anger, you better find a way to get control of them. What I see too often that I don't think God would be pleased with is this, is one day dad's this way, the next day if dad has a bad day at work, he comes home and the same thing that he's okay with yesterday, today set him off and he gets angry and he yells and he gets in my face and he is confrontational with me. Dad, we can't be that person. We need to be the rock. We need to be the stable person in our kids' life that they always know what they're going to get. Every one of us needs that stable thing in our life, and our kids look to us to be that one. So emotionally, we need to be stable. Number two, discipline. You have to be stable in your discipline. You have to be consistent, meaning what you punish for today, you punish for tomorrow, and what you didn't punish for yesterday, you don't punish today. Okay? Give you an illustration. If Gideon, my 10-year-old, comes home and picks up a ball and throws it at my head and bounces off my head, which is not an unusual thing sometimes, okay? If he does that, one day I can't sit there and be like, cool, and just, no big deal, and play around with it. And then come the next day, he does it, and I jump all over him and go to your room, and you're losing everything you own. Okay? That is not consistent in my discipline. My discipline needs to be consistent. So my kids know if I do B, this is the consequences are coming. If I do A, this is the consequences are coming. Dad is always stable in his discipline. If you are not, it leads the kids going, I don't have anything stable to rely on in my life. I want Gideon, when he misbehaves, to know when he misbehaves what he's going to get. I want him to process that. Why? Because he's just processing, is it worth the punishment I'm going to get? I'm cool with that. What I don't want my son doing is, I think I can just get away with things and I'm never going to get punished for it. I just think, who knows what the rules are, and there's no stable anything, and some days I can get away with it and some days I can't, and everything's just a little unstable. That leads to unhealthy adults. What leads to healthy children is they know the standards and they can make choices to obey it or not. And I, as a father, will consistently punish them or reward them based on what they do, always the same. They need that consistency in their life. Here's the other thing. Psalms 18, read this one. This is David. He says this. He says, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my Savior. My God is my rock in whom I find protection. He is my shield, the strength of my salvation, and my stronghold." David writes this at a very traumatic time in his life. Things are shifting all over the place. David doesn't know what is going on. But he writes about this. He says, "But God, you are my rock. When everything else is chaotic, you're the one that I know I can put my trust in, and that's where I find some stability. That's the place I find courage and stability at." Fathers, I would tell you this. You need to be the protector of your children. You need to provide them protection. Our kids today live in a chaotic world. They live in a brutal environment, and you are to be that rock in your kids' life. The same way God is for us adults, you need to be that person that your kid can go, when I'm with them, I feel safe. Gideon, I remember this when he was younger. He watched, it was Star Wars. It's a cartoon, Star Wars. It was like a cartoon that was on every week. Does anyone know what that was? A Star Wars something miniseries? What was it? Clone Wars. That's what it was. Star Wars Clone Wars. And I remember when he was younger, one of the episodes had like a worm crawl up one of the kids' nose, like one of the guy's nose, and it turned him into like a controlled zombie. And ever since then, Gideon was like freaked out for like the next 3 years about zombies. And I'm like, from that one little worm? What's going on? But I remember at night, I would have him in bed again ready to leave, and he'd go, "You can't leave, you can't leave." And I'd be like, "Why can't I leave?" And he'd be like, "There might be a zombie in my closet. Might be a zombie in my closet." And as a dad, here's how you would handle it. "Gideon, I'm going to open the door and there's a zombie in there. I'm going to kill him right now so you can go to bed." Okay, now, you look and you're like, what? Here's the thing. What I was doing is providing security for my child. I would say this. This is more the classic role of the masculine male. There is a place for us in your kid's life, which is this. My dad will protect me. My dad will not let anything happen to me. And so if there's a zombie in that closet, I'm walking in there right now, and I will kill him dead before I come out, so you are safe and you can go to bed and you don't have to worry about it. And my son, after I would do that, would come out, and he would go right to sleep. I also remember there's this question I used to get all the time. "Dad," and this is when I got a little bit older, "what happens if someone breaks in the house and they break in the house tonight or whatever?" And I said, "Gideon, before they ever get to your room, I will beat them silly and I will call the cops and you will never see them. Just so you know, that's how it will go down if anyone breaks into our house." Now, the reason I say that, could I beat them silly? I don't know. I have ways to protect myself. You learn on the streets how to protect yourself in ways. I might not be the biggest guy in the world, but I know certain ways to hurt people if I need to. But here's the thing. What I wanted to relate to my son is this. "Gideon, as long as I'm in this house, you're safe. You don't need to worry. That's Dad's issues. You let me worry about those things. Your kids do not need to be worrying about their safety when they're at home. Your kids don't need to be worrying about the closets when you're at home. You need to be the father in the house that goes, when I'm here, you're safe." Okay? And that's a huge asset to your children. The last thing I would tell you about godly fathers is this, and this is the most important. Godly fathers leave a legacy for their children to follow. Godly fathers. You leave a path for your kids to follow. Joshua, I love this passage. You've probably heard it before, chapter 24, verse 15. Joshua says this. He says, "But if you are," and basically what he's doing is he's confronting a whole bunch of the Israelites. He's confronting them because they're just kind of doing what they want to do and they're not following God. And he just chooses to confront them, and he says this, "But if you are unwilling to serve the Lord, then choose today whom you will serve." He says, "Would you prefer the gods of your ancestors?" So he's saying, would you prefer the gods of your fathers? Serve beyond the Euphrates? Or will it be the gods of the Amorites in whose lands you now live? And then he makes a statement. He says, "But for me and my family, we will serve the Lord." Joshua comes on and goes, "You guys can serve the gods of your father and do all that, whatever you want to do. I just want you all to know right now, me and my family, we will serve the Lord. That's what we're going to do." Joshua left a legacy for his kids to go, that's a path I follow. My dad served the Lord. Our family serves the Lord. Fathers, that is one of the things you need to lay down with your families. You need to leave a legacy of obedience to God. It's the greatest gift you can give to your children, which is our family, me, your mother, you. We serve the Lord. And we're going to show you how it's done. We're going to walk that path for you so that you can walk it as well, and you will see it. One of the greatest gifts I had in my life, I had a father who left that legacy. My father's gone now for 3 years. It doesn't affect who I am today. It doesn't affect if I'm going to walk with God. Why? Because for 60-some years, I saw a faithful man walk with the Lord, and he made it clear all the time, our household will follow the Lord. That's what we care. I don't care what the world's doing. I don't care what other parents are doing. I don't care how they're living their lives. We will live this way because we will follow the Lord. Greatest gift my dad ever gave me. It doesn't matter if he's alive or dead. I know what that is because I saw it for most of my life until he passed away. All right? That is the greatest gift you can give to your kids. Now, here's the key to that one, fathers. You have to be the same guy here as you are out there. You have to be the same guy here as you are everywhere else in your life. Your kids better only know you as one person. One person. And let me just say this. If that means you don't put as much of a face on when you're here, I can live with that. I understand you're not all perfect fathers like I am. I got that. Okay? You like how I threw that in there? Okay. Now, here's what I understand. None of us are perfect. When we're at church, we don't have to try to act perfect all the time. We're all flawed. Now, I'm not telling you to come in here and bear your sins in front of us and do the things that you do that aren't right out there in here. But what I am telling you is this. Your kids better not see you walk in here one way, and then when you go home the rest of the week, you live a whole different way. You're not leaving any legacy for your children that way. You're not leaving anything of substance that will last in them. You need to make sure who you are when you sit here is who you are when you're out there. So guys, when your kids aren't around and you go, well, my kids aren't around, I can talk this way when my kids aren't around. No, you can't. Because there better only be one you. And the one we see here would be the best one to be you. And do that everywhere. Do that at work, do that at home, do that in a neighborhood. Whatever it is, be one of you. If you do that, even if you have some flaws, you can leave an incredible legacy for your kids to follow. That's what I would encourage you to do. So fathers this morning, let me just tell you this. You are game changers in the lives of your children if you so desire to be. You are the game changers. What I would say is this. Don't let anything in this world suck you into trading your ability to be a father at home with your children. Because dads, there are all sorts of temptations out there that will try to pull on you and take you away from that role. There will be other women that come along that will make you think, maybe this is worth having an affair for. Let me tell you what, no, it's not. There are better jobs that will come along that go, if you would only give 75 hours this week to your job so you can have all this money to give to your kids, let me tell you, it's not worth it. Be with your kids. There are all sorts of temptations that will come up to tempt you, to take you away from being that father in your household. And you need to be able to resist those, because I will tell you this, being there to raise your children every day of their lives is the most significant thing you will ever do in your life. And it's worth every sacrifice that you will ever make to be their father at their home. It is worth it all. Proverbs 23:24, it reads this. It says, the father of godly children has cause for joy. What a pleasure it is to have wise children. One of the greatest things I loved about my life that I could give to my own father was this. When I became a Christian and got my life straightened out, I could see the joy in my parents' life. I could see the joy in my father's face. And that was the greatest gift I could ever give him. Why? I was living a life that I knew God called me to live, that I saw him model for years. That's what we see in Proverbs. Dads, be the life-changing father every child desires to have. I tell you to be this. Be their superhero. That's who you need to be. And you can change your life. It's the greatest impact you'll ever have in this world. Would you pray with me?